You're listening to Through the Trapdoor with the Malthusian Trap. The three of us locked in a room, making music and chatting shit.
These are proud people, and they don't like to tell you the things they're short of, like tablecloths, which are nearly impossible to replace, and their food, which is so severely rationed, so that when a visitor comes, they're apt to place on the table what's got to last them all the week.
Interested in fishing? Yeah, there's a lovely reel. Catch a whale with it.
This rationing is something that you ought to know about. You know how it is back home, or was. Your host looked on it as a compliment the more you ate. Well, here you have to watch out because things are so short.
All right, now, will you come up to the table?
And it's especially tough when one or two people live alone like Bill and his wife. So, here's a little lesson for you on how not to behave when invited out to supper in a British home. Don't grab a handful of tomatoes. They're rare luxuries. Go easy with the meat. They each only get 25 cents worth a week. You can eat it all in one gulp, but don't. And butter, go slow with the butter. Very slow. 2 ounces a week plus 8 ounces of margarine is the lot. Green vegetables aren't so bad. And all the potatoes you want. The crockery is mighty scarce. And tea, 2 ounces per person per week is all they get. They can't have it as often as they want. And sugar, each person gets 8 ounces a week. They have almost given up having it in their tea. Jams and preserves, 4 ounces a week. So this is a particularly horrible example you're seeing, but you get the idea. It isn't that they are starving, it's just that they have very little to give to other people. Remember, they won't tell you these things. Now that was the wrong thing to do.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Through the Trapdoor.
Hello.
With us.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Evening.
That's a bit busy then, just
We was on time today. Look at that. 9 o'clock on
Fingers
the dot.
crossed.
no technical issues.
Fingers crossed.
It's only took him 6 months. Oops, excuse me. It's only took him 6 months.
6 months.
That's what you want, innit? Big burp at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we got it that wrong that many times. We actually thought about coming in late, didn't we? We said, should we go on time or should we just be late? You know, just to keep up the usual, keep up appearances, yeah. So, yeah.
It's good to be late, though, isn't it? Fashionably late to the party and all that, and then just stand in the kitchen all night.
It's slagging everyone up.
That's what you do, innit?
Jonah Lewis.
How is everyone? Been up to much?
I'm all right.
Is that us or the audience?
Or the huge audience? We got
Straight away,
people.
first comment of the night. Paul
So-
Godfrey,
Alright.
Doug's light is better this week.
Yeah, I thought I'd
Yeah.
put the main light on. I was going for the spotlight look before, but now I've gone for the full lightage.
It's got the curtain open.
It's always
it?
open.
Natural light.
That's what it is.
How is everyone? Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, good.
Buzzing after Boris's announcement.
I didn't even watch it. I didn't watch it at all.
I watched it a bit after, and I just thought, God, this sounds like a crock of shit. Do you know what I mean?
No one really knows what they're doing, do they?
No, I couldn't follow it. I was just like, a load of rubbish. Evening, Ryan.
Yeah,
All right, Ryan.
it's like, go to work, don't go to work, don't
Yeah.
get the bus. But if you get the bus, don't stay on the bus too long. Turn around, touch your toes, rub your tummy, pat your head. Don't go to work, go to work. That's basically what it was.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, no one really knows what's going on. It's going on. But yeah, you tuned in for the number 5 of our lockdown.
I think it's number 5 anyway.
We'll just say it's number 5, and if someone says there's only 4, we'll just say one got deleted. In actual fact, one did get deleted, didn't it? Because we did the pirate radio station.
Yeah, YouTube didn't like that.
Did that get
Well,
deleted?
it didn't. It didn't get deleted, but because it got so heavily copyright striked that
it's like 90 minutes of silence. But yeah, we're going to look at World War II tonight because obviously it was VE Day on Friday, wasn't it? So we thought we'd have a look at the I don't know, guess the alternative look at World War II a little bit compared to what's been out there this weekend. Did you see much of the celebrations on the telly or on
I didn't
Twitter?
see anything in the media, but we had a couple of people having parties on the street.
Oh God! When I was delivering, there's some people in the cul-de-sacs and that had like all the old tunes playing and dressed up as like 40s in the 40s gear and all that kind of business.
People at the end of our street, and they were a big band. I don't know if they do it normally, but they were playing like boogie woogie shit. There's a saxophone player, and it was pretty good, to be fair. I didn't listen to it very long, but fair play.
Did you see? Because Carly went out to the shop and she come back and she said that she drove past loads of street parties where people were just like not socially distancing at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and then when I looked on Twitter, it looked like that was going on up and down the country. It was even on the news where like the news reporters were there. They're like, "Oh, it's great scenes in the background. People are having a party and maintaining social distances, and people were just like licking each other and that." It's just like, I just wondered if you had seen anything, because I think I reckon, I don't know, it's not looking good, is it? All that kind of shit.
I haven't seen any of that personally, but I did see that there was a big protest in London, wasn't there, over the weekend?
Well, anti-COVID one.
Yeah.
How many people?
What, protesting COVID?
Yeah.
Fuck off, COVID.
No more COVID.
Just do one. I just don't want you around here anymore.
No, they were protesting the lockdown. Like they've been.
How many
quite
people
a lot.
was on it?
It was they were on the banks of the Thames. Quite a lot of people there. Loads of old Bill.
Because I thought it was illegal to do that.
Well,
I thought there was a thing in the bill that said if you protests are illegal for 2 years.
yeah, but there was loads of people there. I don't think they really wanted to call the riot squad in. There was loads of people. Honestly, it was all over Facebook and shit. I saw loads of little videos of people were shooting on their phones and shit, just walking around. Loads of people with signs and stuff. I haven't seen any of it on the news.
Because I've seen loads of people in the parks as well. Obviously, with the weather, people have just been going and just getting on it, aren't they? It's just anything to get smashed, isn't it, in this country? Just like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like I was saying to Carly, if you rocked up to one of those street parties and just been like, "What are you doing? Have you not heard the phrase loose lips sink ships?" They wouldn't have a clue what you were talking about. Do you know what I mean? With the irony of it all, they're celebrating like World War II or like VE Day.
Yeah.
And that, like, yeah, man, people.
I was
are mad,
lost there for a minute. I was like, "Where are you going with loose lips sink ships?" Like what?
It's just the ethos of it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and then when you said that, Deborah's post come up, and I thought it said everyone put out in Stratford, and I was like, did they?
Everyone was put out in Stratford.
Yeah, I thought it said put out. Do you know what I mean? They
Pull
put
out.
it. If you get my gist.
Jizzed.
put out. They put it out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It seemed a bit excessive for me.
All right, Deb. Anyway, and Richard's just
Hello,
joined
everybody.
us.
He said his trousers are 40.
In the 40-inch.
Yeah, too many Jaffa cakes, isn't it? So yeah, we're gonna do World War II tonight. We're not historians. We're just interested in shit. So we'll go through the stuff that we're interested to do with World War II. But we've got the viewers' questions to do, so I'm gonna do it differently. I'm gonna do the 3 viewers' questions to start with, and then I've got a question for the end. So, Rich, I'm gonna do your question last, because I thought it'd be a good way to finish the podcast. So I'm going to roll with question number 1, yeah? So most people, before the start of World War II, put their pets down, dogs, cats, horses. They thought they wouldn't be able to feed them. In this war, and I think by this war, they mean the pandemic, as a society, we panic, bought more. What does this show about attitude to collective responsibility?
If in doubt, make a shitload of sausages out the meat, innit?
I did think that was a bit odd that everyone just killed all the pets to start with. Surely it'd have been better hanging on to them and eating them later on when they had no food.
There must have been a reason. Something must have happened in the First World War, surely. I mean,
maybe they just couldn't afford to pay them. Something like 750,000 animals got killed. You know what I mean? They couldn't afford to eat them.
What?
They couldn't afford to eat them.
You're struggling.
You're they can't afford. You're making excuses to be vegan now. Can't afford to eat it.
It's too expensive.
Can't afford to. They couldn't afford to feed him or something. Obviously, food would have been at a shortage.
Yeah, but I think they were more aware that they were going to get bombed, weren't they? There was Zeppelin raids in the First World War, so maybe that had something to do with it. No?
Nah, it can't have done. I don't think so. Like, I think it'd be more to do with food shortages, surely.
I don't know.
Yeah,
fuck knows, isn't it? Is it? Well, that's what I would have thought.
But maybe they would have eaten them, wouldn't they? If they killed a horse, there's no way you're just gonna chuck that in a bin.
Big animal,
you know what I mean?
It can feed quite a lot of people.
They still eat it nowadays. Horse is massive in France.
It's big in this country if you buy a Findus.
If you go to Iceland,
pancake. Yeah, fucking donkey as well while you're at it. But
no, it's meant. There's nothing wrong with eating horse. I mean, if people want to eat horse, I think I have.
It's all right. It's not that bad. It's just like bland beef.
Any chorizo's made of donkey anyway,
yeah.
Original chorizo, like the proper decent stuff you get from Spain, is donkey.
Donkey.
It just seems a bit preemptive to just kill them all, innit?
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean?
You can get little horses, Ryan.
Like
sorry.
I say,
yeah, miniature horses.
There must have been a reason for it. They can't have just gone, right, we're at war, let's kill all the puppies. Do you know?
I know you would have been like, I'm going to try and hang on to little Toby here for the next, so as long as I can. I just don't want to be like, war's out, right, kill the dog. Do you know what I mean?
What about the go on, sorry.
Donkey. Sorry, go on.
What about the question in regards to what does the difference in attitude show about collective responsibility? So
it's a different time though, wasn't it? And they were different people back then, different upbringings, different ways of life.
Yeah, it's a different world, completely different world, isn't it?
Like the class systems,
you know what I mean?
More ingrained, and there's more of a sense of service to the country and that kind of thing.
Do you think people panic bought but just on a much different scale?
I don't. What could you panic buy back in the 40s, people? Though?
I don't know, but if
you had fuck all to buy. Anyway, the best of times.
I don't necessarily mean on a mass market scale. I mean like people with money will have procured things that they knew would have been surely.
Yeah, but there was always going to be people who with the cash have got estates, there's farms, their own land, farms. They're always going to be the farmers, and the same as the farmers, and it's the same in communist time. The people with the most food lived in the country. Do you know what I mean? If you had family that lived in the country, it was happy days for you.
That's why they.
I'm pretty sure it would have been the same in the war
That's why they
as well.
evacuated the kids, though, wasn't it? Keep them out of way of bombs and give them a more structured, normal way of life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people panic buying, the whole panic buying thing. I only really saw it for a couple of days. Admittedly, I didn't go shopping for like a week during the period where it was like everyone's panic buying, and I noticed the toilet paper thing, but I didn't really notice. I didn't really see that much. Personally.
No, they were doing it. Dodo was saying that because he works at Lidl, my brother-in-law was saying there's people just buying masses of like bulk buying.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
certain types
I don't
of food
doubt that
and
people did.
Wheat and
Don't get me wrong, but I didn't see it personally. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Deb says people are greedy now for oneself rather than others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably got something to do with that. But I think like I say, there was more of a sense of community, and there was more of a sense of doing things for the country, and for fucking the Queen was more of a deal. Yeah, well, the King, sorry.
So I just Googled it now. So it said, just off this one quick Google, because obviously can't do it too much. It just says, consequently, during the early months of the war, the price of food soared and panic buying ensued.
Yeah, so I mean,
probably did.
And also,
go
you
on
got to
then,
remember that they were censoring it back then, censoring any bad news or any kind of anything that could cause hysteria.
Yeah, we didn't have a TV, did you? Really, just
nobody
had
Did you ever see
real?
One of the first? I'm not joking. One of the first broadcasts of a German plane over the channel, and it was literally like the football in the 60s or the 50s. He was
the
commentating.
dogfights.
Oh, look, and there's the German.
Yeah,
have you seen it?
It's really good.
Oh, look, there the German bombers. He's coming in again from the right. Look at that, and now he comes down. Oh, and the English bombers just moved away.
He went slightly German then at the
Do you know
beginning,
what I
and
mean?
then trailed back into English. That was quite funny.
Yeah, but it was. Have you seen that footage? It's mad, isn't it? It doesn't look real, does it?
See, I don't think
it's a setup.
I don't think that there was that much different between now and then, other than this, like what you just said on the censoring. So, like, obviously, social media and news and whatnot, you can just see more of it. But I don't know. I think sometimes people have a romanticized view of what it was back then. People still looted people's like houses in the Blitz and that, didn't they? Do you know
But
what I mean?
obviously that was more like petty crime. I mean, you could get shot for it.
It was going on.
Get shot for it back then.
Yeah, but it's going on like mad in the Blitz. People looting.
But then if you've got fuck all, you're more likely to steal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, my gran always used to say, like, it was better back in the war and stuff because you used to be able to go out and leave your door open. And my old man used to say, yeah, that's only because you had fuck all worth stealing. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense in some ways, isn't it? In terms of like, you're only gonna break in somewhere where you know you're gonna get something, whereas now it's just like everyone's got something that you could probably rob in it.
Everyone's got a phone, everyone's got a laptop, everyone's got a TV.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a shit TV. It's worth about 15 quid. So burglar would be disappointed if they could carry it. Fucking hell, I need a forklift truck. What do we think to the World War II COVID-19 comparison and rhetoric?
I was surprised how quickly they jumped on that Blitz mentality thing. Like, it was overnight, wasn't it? It was pretty much like, we're at war, but this time it's not the Germans, it's a disease, and we all need to pull together in the spirit of the Blitz. I think it's a bit of a weird comparison. It's not really the same at all.
Yeah, it is odd, isn't it?
You know, you're comparing death raining on you from above every night during the Blitz, and the threat of someone coming over with a gun and some tanks and fucking you up and changing your way of life, not just for a time like a year or whatever, but potentially changing the way that, you know, you go about your everyday. Obviously, we know now that it would have been like exterminating Jews and homosexuals and all that, although it was illegal, obviously, but to be a homosexual, I mean, but like they didn't really know that back then until they freed the concentration camps and stuff like that. it's a weird comparison. It's got very little to do with each other, apart from the fact that it's going to affect a lot of people. I don't know. I didn't really like it. I don't really like that comparison. I think it's completely
same. Fucking thousands were dying every week in the fucking war.
Well, I mean, that isn't to say.
I mean,
that isn't to say that
thousands.
a lot of people haven't suffered from this.
No, I know, but it's a completely different fucking.
I just think it's a different.
It's completely different.
I just don't understand why we need to compare everything to the war. It's like it's like football.
Tell you what, because we need to package everything and put it into a little box, don't we? Nowadays,
it's just daft, isn't it? It's just
there
like anything.
That fits into that box, and we can all get onto that because it's not different. It's in a box.
But it's like the football, isn't it? It's just like going around singing 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. To get like. It's just ridiculous. It's like, all right, yeah, cool. Like we've only won. I'd rather be singing 2 World Cups, innit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like singing it to Germany, who've won like more World Cups than anyone. It's just like I think they're pretty happy with winning the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're too arsed about losing the war either. You know what I mean? It's like they're a powerhouse of Europe,
though, isn't it? That's taking the piss.
It's just
arrogance. It's taking the piss.
But it isn't taking the piss, though, is it? Because it's a mentality. It isn't. So you're telling me that all those football fans who sing that are comic geniuses?
No, but that's fucking a sense of humour, isn't it?
So you can't never sing anything of taking a piss.
But it's just a mentality, isn't it? It's just an arrogance of like the way that we look at the war, and it's just I don't know. It's just unnecessary. It's like going back to what I was saying about people a weekend with the street parties. It's just any excuse just to get pissed and get smashed. It's just fucking. It's just, I don't know, it's just unnecessary in my opinion.
Yeah, but you could say the same thing about Guy Fawkes. I mean, how far do you want to go back?
Could do.
Do you know what I mean? Because that's an excuse to light some fireworks.
Oh, it's just fucking, that's nonsense as well. Once you've seen one fucking firework, you've seen them all, innit? Just like, not much point.
But there's no point in celebrating anything.
Christmas, get rid of Christmas. Yeah, but it's just the fucking like I don't know. I just think we're just like it's odd the way that we look at the war and like the way that it's still fucking such a like it's almost as if like everyone who's fucking over the age of 50's fought in the war still. It's just ridiculous a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
We have. It's Richard just said we have got a small island mentality.
We do.
I'm telling
definitely.
you. Not everyone. I mean, that's a generalisation. Do you know what I mean? But
I would agree with that.
The majority, the majority of fucking hell. I mean, all my mates from time ago, like I tell them like where I've been in that, and they're like, some of them are like, "What'd you go there for? Abroad somewhere? What's it like down? Like it's all right. Why would you go there? Look shit." And it's like, well, it might look shit, but it's somewhere to go and just experience somewhere, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I guess it just feeds into that sort of empire state of mind a little bit as well. Do you know what I mean? That kind of the way that we view the world as Brits is like, I don't know, it just feeds into all that fucking shit that we've spoke about before. Like everyone's been fucking clamoring for the fucking for the Brexit and all that, and it's just like the minute that anything happens that they can say, they can be like, "Right, we're being defiant Brits." It's fucking the Blitz mentality. Everyone's got the fucking dicks in their hands over it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's nonsense.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's what I think to it anyway.
The thing is, though, with that small island mentality and stuff, that's not just a British phenomenon. Like every country in the world's got that. You've got the Americans saying that they're the greatest nation in the world and all that bollocks. You've got the Portuguese that hate the Spanish and very rarely go, on like my missus' parents. I don't think they go on holiday outside of Portugal or Western Spain. Do you know what I mean? So I think that kind of thing happens all over the world.
We said it last week, didn't we? People were going on about, is this some sort, I know it's a generalisation again, and it's talking about British people, package holidays stopped. I mean, after people would be like, "Oh, can't go on holiday no more." It's like, well, you can. You just got to get your own flight, look for a hotel and go somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, what? Fucking do it yourself. What? You know what I mean? I've got to make my own way from the airport to the fucking wherever you're going.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, or if it's not Spain, I'm doing that in fucking Czechoslovakia. Might get murdered. That from the war that was there a few years back, and you're like, what fucking war? Do you know what I mean?
I think as well, like, in some ways, like, again, obviously people have suffered because of the COVID-19 thing, but it's, I don't know, it's really disingenuous to compare the two things, and it's used in a political way as well, which I think's like, kind of like, it's manipulative as well, the way that rhetoric's put out. So, like, obviously Boris Johnson thinks he's like Winston Churchill, doesn't he? So it's just like, to make those comparisons and deliberately make that happen is like, it's conceited, and it is wrong, really, because a lot of people obviously made the ultimate sacrifice in the war. Like, so it's like, I don't know. I think it's fucking, I think it's wrong. The two things that aren't fucking even remotely near each other for a start, and I think the country needs to just stop looking for an excuse to get back to that fucking spirit of the war mentality, because it's just like, who the fuck would want to live in World War II?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
I'm sure people had good times and like were happy and everything, but at the end of the day, if World War III broke out now, what would we do? Put the bunting out and have a big street party? Would we fuck? We'd all be shitting it, mate. Simple.
I mean, you're definitely right about the whole Churchill-Boris thing. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's fucking blatant, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Trying to draw parallels between Boris and Churchill, like that's I've seen that quite a lot, especially when he caught it. They were like, oh, he's like a wartime.
Yeah.
Was it Trump that said he's a wartime head of state as well?
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's just like, I don't think this is a war.
Who's a wartime head of state?
I think it was Trump proclaimed himself as a wartime head of state or whatever. You just think like,
running,
you know, it's just a bit.
It's self-proclaimed fucking. I'm a self-proclaimed genius.
It's just weird.
I'm a genius. Fucking genius.
It's a madness. Last question before we start getting into the subjects. Was World War II a race to the oil fields of the Middle East?
Well, World War I definitely was.
Yeah, I was going to say World War One wasn't it?
The Baghdad Railway, wasn't it? The Second World War is... It's difficult, isn't it? Because, like you say, nowadays, you can look back in hindsight and go, it's one of the most just wars because we went and fought Nazism and stuff like that and stopped the Holocaust and stuff like that. But they didn't know about any of that, or they knew very little about that.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's another cause for it, and that must be empire building.
Yeah, it's got to be empire building, isn't it? At the end of the day, I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, who looks at a war and thinks, yeah, as a state, I'm going to go and do that? The only reason to have a war is to put yourself in a better position, and then it's just the vehicle that you use to convince the public to go to war. It's just propaganda, isn't it? I mean, look at the Iraq War. Obviously, with hindsight, like you said, and finding out about the concentration camps and all the rest of it, then, you know, that obviously makes the war just in the eyes of
but that wouldn't have happened.
What do you mean?
That wouldn't have happened. Those concentration camps wouldn't have got without a war. There were a consequence of the war as well, though, wasn't they? Do you know what I'm saying? There wasn't happening those concentration camps before the war started. Well, the Jewish were getting persecuted before. I'm not saying there wasn't, but there wasn't concentration camps before
they had the ghettos,
war.
Though, didn't they, and stuff like that?
Yeah,
they were ghettoized, but
that was just before the war. It wasn't. Do you know what I mean?
The 30s,
but it was never
like deep into the 30s, like 36.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was later than that, wasn't it?
I think it was later than that, wasn't it? 34, 35. I don't know. I can't.
I'm not sure.
Well, the war started in 39, didn't it? So,
yeah, but that, you know.
I don't think like saving the Jews was ever any justification for the war.
No, not
was
at all.
It
I mean, the justification on our part was they invaded.
What? Kill another how many million?
They just basically didn't want Germany to become the dominant force in Europe because they took over. Obviously, they marched into Poland, didn't they? And then they took they took France pretty quickly, and so it's like it's across the pond then, isn't it? It's just like we don't.
But what I've heard a lot, I sent that video to you today.
Basically, what Ryan just said there.
What did he say?
World War II was to prevent Germany extending its borders into the rest of Europe. So it's just like it is an empire thing all around, isn't it? What were you going to say?
The pretext for what the Germans think is to stop Bolshevism and the rise of Bolshevism. That's what a lot of Germans believed why they're going to war, which was a threat, to be fair, to Europe. I'm not saying that is the reason, but it was a threat. They did want to take over. The Russians wanted to take over Europe as well.
Hitler and Stalin, what was that pact called?
The Warsaw Pact.
The Warsaw Pact. It's fucking.
No. I think it was. Yeah.
The fucking Rudolf Hess, was it? Is it Rudolf Hess?
Yeah.
They signed that to split up Poland, didn't they? So if he really was trying to defeat Stalinism, why would he give him loads of territory in Poland and then join their borders?
It was called the. I don't know. It's looking like it's
the Warsaw Pact. Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
It's two names, isn't it?
It's called the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact.
Molotov-Ribbentrop.
There's a non-aggression pact in 1939.
But that was just between those two countries.
Yeah, Russia and Germany.
Not all the countries in. I thought you said all the countries in that area.
It was the Russians and Germans said they won't go to war with each other, but they'll split up Poland.
And plus, also the Russians. Yeah, the Russians didn't sign the
Treaty of Versailles
thing, did they? No, not the Treaty of Versailles. The first one. The Russians didn't sign that treaty to do with
Geneva Convention.
The Geneva Convention. That's it. Yeah, the Russians were the only ones not to sign. That's what Germans did. A lot of Germans did.
Was 1955.
Yeah,
there's different pacts.
Yeah, that was all the countries.
Go on, anyway. You're talking about Geneva Convention.
Geneva, they didn't sign it, did they? The Russians, every other country did. Germany did, and to be fair, a lot of the soldiers did take note of that in the German army. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they did.
What about Steve McQueen?
Steve McQueen, shut up. Even though a lot of soldiers did bad things, German soldiers also did. British and American soldiers do a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The easy thing to think is that all of the war crimes and stuff were German solely or Soviet solely. And you could argue that the Soviets did it in retaliation because obviously the Germans invaded them first and killed a lot of their people.
Purposely, Stalin purposely sent in the Cossacks after they pushed through a lot of the way to Germany because they were like the dirtiest, filthiest soldiers who would basically rape and pillage everything. And he did that purposely solely for that.
So I don't know. Let's move on anyway. We'll get.
No, Stalin did do that. I've read it a few times.
Back to the question. Godfrey just said, but after World War II, all the Middle East borders were drawn up. The State of Israel was formed, the gateway to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but look what's happened since.
Maybe there was an element of oil to it.
Do you know what I mean? With all the oil treaties and stuff.
In what sense?
Well, we've got a lot of oil. Germany's got a lot of oil now.
Yeah, so you're saying that maybe it was about oil.
Well, I think as a consequence,
it's going to be to do with resources, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean the main thing is to stop Germany spreading so much that they become a superpower. That's what I would assume, based on what I've kind of read up on World War II. But I'm no historian; I wouldn't be able to give you a detailed answer. But I think it is about resources. I think it's about empire building, and I think it's about managing a superpower. But there's loads you can go into. The battle for France could have been completely avoided if British and the BEF and the French forces actually advanced, but they didn't. They just sat on the Maginot Line from 1939 till like 1940 or whatever it was. It was too late by that point. but the Germans weren't really
I
prepared
think-
for them. So I mean, there's loads of things in hindsight you could say. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
After the war as well, there was obviously stuff to do with the Suez Crisis and things like that. So that was in 1956, which isn't that long after.
Yeah, and I've just learnt that my
So
my mother's uncle passed away, and he was a commando out in the Suez Canal. Not that I know anything about him or anything, what he got up to, but it's just a.
that's how my nana came to the country, innit? Because she was in Egypt. So
Alright.
On the canal.
she was booted out because fucking they got detained because her dad used to work for the British Army. So when the Suez Crisis kicked off, they all got arrested and then they got put on a ship and booted out of the country.
All right.
So they got detained for quite a while.
It's
so
a part of history that I don't know
um,
anything about. Same thing with the Korean War. Like it's just one of those, like
Yeah,
forgotten.
same.
As horrible as it is to say, it's one of those forgotten conflicts in our history, isn't it? Like we don't really give a fuck about anything that happens after the Second World War.
got Vietnam War.
but that's
we'll
not us,
we
is it?
might
That's
go into
America.
that in the last question. Just meaning popular culture. It's just like obviously like most of the films that you see about World War II come from America. So it's just all the Korean conflict as well. There was other conflicts. There wasn't a conflict in Burma as well.
Yeah, and Malay as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
My uncle was there after the war because he was too young to go into the war, World War II.
You've also got like the Palestine
Yeah.
War, and like because Israel's been in quite a lot of wars, isn't they? Really, 6-Day War or whatever it was. Loads of little wars that we've kind of had something to do with. I don't really know anything about it.
Constantly on it, aren't we? Just love a fucking war. Should we skip to the sections of the podcast? Yeah, skip to the end. Right, we got t-shirts. See you later. I'm off to watch fucking Strictly. I'll kick off this week. So obviously we wanted to talk about the war and whatnot. And I don't know. I find with the war, like World War II, the most things that I find fascinating is just like the mad shit that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like all those late night documentaries on Channel 5. So I thought I'd put together like my favourite World War II sort of mystery / conspiracy type things. I'm going to kick it off with like I've got
another
4 of them.
demo roundup. Yeah.
Another
It's
list.
another countdown.
Another
It might
list.
have been 5, yeah. I'm going to kick it off. This
He
one's
loves, he loves a
Another
list, Damon, doesn't he?
Coming in at
Loves
number
a
5.
list.
This one's fascinated me for a while. It's the Nazi gold train.
Boom. There
You got the
go.
slide.
You got it up right now.
Yeah, man. Like I heard about this the other year. Like I read an article that said that these people think that they found where the gold train is like hidden in this mountain on this old railway track, and it's been bombed in or something. And I don't know.
That's recent,
let's
that
do
one,
some
isn't it?
background
well?
because
Yeah.
I didn't really know a lot about it until I looked it up a couple of days ago.
Now, basically, what it is, obviously, the Nazis acquired quite a lot of stuff on their conquests. So I think what the gold train is that they put all the loot, all the treasure on a train, and when they looked like they was gonna lose the war or when it was getting touch and go, Hitler basically said, "Go and fucking hide the loot in it, and
Give me
just
the loot."
fucking no one can have it." Yeah, exactly. Give me the loot. So basically, the legend is that there's a train somewhere
What, still
in
chugging
Poland, I
around?
think. And yeah, imagine. And they've they basically buried it in a mountain, in a tunnel of a mountain. But anyway, how I come about it was I seen this news article where these fellas
Yeah.
think that they found the gold train and they're trying to excavate it, whether or not it's true or not. I think it's a legend.
Yeah, but
What?
yeah, I know, yeah. But this was in recent times, and what happened was, I can remember reading that article and watching something, and they were saying, "We know where it is. We're going to go in and find it," and then you didn't hear anything
Well,
else.
I saw something.
So either they found it, and this is in like the last 5 years. This is
Yeah, this was in 2018.
Yeah, I saw a video
Yeah,
from
that's it, yeah.
2018 with a Polish politician
Yeah, that's it,
saying they
Polish
found
lads,
it.
yeah.
They definitely found a train, and they reckon it's full of gold, and it's definitely an armored train.
Yeah, that's it,
Loads
yeah.
of guns all over it and stuff.
And then
This-
Yeah.
They said they wanted a finder's fee for finding it because they got it from a confession. But yeah, no one's heard anything about
Can
it
I just
since
say
then.
as well
No.
that this picture is one of my favourite pictures of all time because it looks like a Nazi Thomas the Tank Engine.
Have you put the picture up?
Where is
I'll
it?
put it back up.
But
The Nazi Thomas the Tank Engine.
there's
Where's Ringo?
another thing as well. There's
Nigel
also...
the Nazi. Come chugging
Where's the
along.
fat controller? Hang on, he's there.
Have
He's
you
in the
heard
bottom
of...
right. There he is.
It kind of feeds into this a little bit as well. Have you heard of the Amber
The Amber
Room?
Room, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that as well. Yeah.
Basically, they nicked a load of there's this golden room. I think it must have been in Russia or something. And when they've gone and got it, when they've gone and invaded Russia, they basically stripped this golden room and gone and reconstructed it somewhere else. And I think if my memory serves me correct, they never actually found the original golden room again. They said it got destroyed in bombing, but I don't know. It sounds a bit fishy. How come all these mad things that they robbed never get found? So maybe the golden room's on the fucking Nazi
You've got to
gold
think,
train.
like,
Fuck knows, man.
why it may
Yeah.
have got blown up is because it's a proper total war zone. There's trains being blown up from the sky every minute. Well, not every minute, but every day. You know what I mean? There's lots of people going missing. There's lots of German soldiers surrendering and defecting and all kinds of stuff. So it's quite easy for it to get destroyed.
Yeah, but St. Paul's Cathedral didn't
Yeah,
it?
but that was just fluke, wasn't it?
Houses of Parliament.
That was Jesus.
What you want about that?
The palaces. You know what I mean? It's just all convenient that all the Nazi stuff all got blown up in the war and all our stuff.
Yeah, but we didn't get invaded.
Bullshit.
We didn't get invaded. They got invaded.
Shit. They robbed it, yeah, and then either the Americans or the Russians have looted it and fucking melted it down into sovereigns so they can wear them on the rings, or it's in a mountain somewhere in a
There's
train
a
row.
Channel 4 documentary about it, about the Nazi gold train, and there's a place in Germany that the Americans found, and basically what the Germans had done is taken all of the gold bullion and all the coins and notes and stuff and hidden them in a mine. Can you imagine how much of that went missing before they fucking reported it? It's like Kelly's Heroes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't had my hair cut, Richard. It's still the same, so shush.
He's just quiffed it different today.
There you go, he's back.
Then
back.
My next one.
Your next one.
My next one is buried Spitfires of Burma. Again, it's one of those little urban legend things that basically they reckon that there's some untouched, crated up Spitfires that have been buried in Burma. A bit like the Nazi gold train, and basically they got buried in Burma when they left because they didn't want them to fall into the hands of someone else. So they buried these Spitfires. Yeah, the Burmese flying around on Spitfires, but they've gone to look for them, and they can't find them, and then they passed it off as a legend, and then basically someone said no, they've got more evidence. And the Burmese government, I think, paid them to go and have a look for a second time. This was quite recently, like a couple of years ago. But the monsoon season stopped them going to look for them. That's quite interesting,
So
I
what?
think. Imagine that.
They found a load of old Spitfires, or they didn't?
They haven't found them yet. It's probably just a folk tale. But there's an explorer who's adamant he's got fresh information, and he's going to go and dig them up.
I don't get why that's a mystery, though.
So,
I know, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
What's such?
Do you know
There's
what I
loads
mean?
of planes that they buried because they might use them again.
The only great thing of that now is like for parts and shit, isn't it? Or reconstructing. You know what they're like? These guys who build the planes. They spend years. Like they find a shell and they're like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There's the other thing that I find funny.
I said
find about
said
this.
yeah.
You said no. Oh.
I don't think anyone said no, mate. That just goes to show what goes on in your head. It's a complex place. They said the funny thing is, the numbers on the Spitfires range from anything from 140 to like 13. Can you imagine finding 140 Spitfires just buried under your house?
Oh, they're buried that many.
Well, what did you think they were?
Like one.
I thought it was just like 2 Spitfires. Yeah, I thought it was
1 and a half.
You know,
They left a wing behind or
but
something.
why didn't they have fuel to refuel or something?
I don't know what.
If you're not going to take them back, surely instead of digging a ruddy great big hole, you're just going to set fire to the fucking thing, then you
get rid of it.
You know what I mean? No, let's dig a fucking massive hole, drag the fucking things in.
It's not like
it's sweating, it's raining, it's boiling hot. But I'm going to dig a big hole. It's
not like it's a set of keys or something. You know what I mean?
The keys.
Most of the Spitfires were re-exported. I can't remember what the reason was that the legend says that they buried a load of them, but it's probably
so it is a legend, but you can't remember what the legend is.
The legend of a
you just have to trust us. It's a legend.
No, it is a real thing. If you Google it, there's loads of articles on it.
What do they say?
What do you mean? They'll talk about the archaeological exploits of people trying to find them. Why did what?
Why did they, why is it a mystery? I don't get why it's a mystery.
But they're made of gold.
Because some people still believe that they're there, and they say they've got evidence to say that they're there, and some people say that they're not. That's usually our mystery.
Yeah, but why?
Was they not?
Isn't it?
Was they not meant to be there?
It's not like
or something?
Nazi gold where there could be like untold wealth in a cave somewhere that they've hidden this train in. There's some planes buried underneath someone's house.
Well, they're worth quite a lot of money, aren't they, Spitfires?
Yeah, but how much would be left after 75 years?
Well, that's the mystery, isn't it?
How much is left?
How much steering
agent?
I've got a steering wheel.
Well, they're not. They're supposed to be buried in crates, aren't they, to preserve them? Like they were supposed to get exported off the island.
Was they meant to go there originally, or?
Well, if we were based there, weren't we? So. I think it's like in a rush to get off the island for whatever reason. Yeah. Me and you.
So when you're in another country with all your arms and you're getting pushed back, you're like, nah, I mean, you can't take it. You're just like, let's dig a hole instead of destroying it.
Well, I mean, I can understand, I can understand you destroying it. The Americans did it when they left Saigon, didn't they? They pushed all their helicopters in the water.
Yeah, of course. They pushed them all in. They shoved a lot of them in the sea as well, didn't they?
But I just don't get why it's a mystery. There could be stuff there.
I don't understand why you don't get that it's a mystery.
Because it's not very mysterious, is it? It's like there could be some Spitfires buried there.
Yeah, Deb says maybe they're giving the pilots a proper burial.
Yeah, right.
It was apparently it was at the end of World War II, which makes it even more weird in the sense of like, why wouldn't you just wait to come and get them?
I see. So that's the mystery. Like the mystery is why did they bury them? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like if we knew they were buried, it's not that much of a mystery, though, is it?
I don't know. Right, they could be in good condition.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think it's true anyway.
What's the next rundown anyway?
Number 3.
U-boat 530.
I'm sorry, I had a picture for it, but I don't know where it's gone. It seems to have disappeared.
So this was obviously all the U-boats were ordered to surrender at a certain point, but this particular U-boat went missing for quite a long time, and then it surfaced. It surfaced around Argentina and surrendered to the Argentine Navy. So the mystery is, why did it take them 2 months to basically surrender after the call to surrender. So obviously it feeds into the conspiracy theories that there was high-ranking German individuals on there, and they were taken to Argentina.
Oh, I see. So this is at the end of the war, then, yeah.
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 That's
so
quite interesting tale.
I think that's quite
You ever watched,
interesting.
I can't remember what it's called. Finding Hitler? Searching for Hitler?
Yeah. Is that the one where he goes to find his family?
No, I think they do come across a couple of members of his family, but it's like an ongoing series. I think they made like 4 or 5 of them now. And then basically they go to Argentina and they find because it really did. There was a German Nazi colony there. And they go in, they like talk to them and stuff, and apparently it was like all the inhabitants of the colony, which is still there. They've all got like iron crosses on the wall and like fucking old rifles and stuff, and they're all like still worshipping Hitler and shit. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, I've seen it on TV recently. That it's just on a travel show, and there's like areas where there's like beer halls in Argentina, and it's just like being in Germany.
Yeah, it looks like Bavaria and shit.
It's the same on the on that race across the world. They went to some German town, didn't they?
Yeah, so I mean, it's like this, isn't it? Yeah, if you get ordered to surrender, and then like 2 months later, you're found like on the other side of the fucking ocean, where all the fucking evidence points towards people fleeing from your country who are going to get fucked up on war crimes and everything, then I don't know. The chances are that was what was going on.
And also, they turned themselves into the Argentinians. Do you know what I mean? They didn't turn themselves into the Russians or the Americans or French or whatever.
I like that. Have you seen that picture of what they say is Adolf Hitler, like in older age?
It does look like him, you know.
Fucking looks like him, like fuck, doesn't it?
That was going to be my next question on U-boat 530. Was Hitler on the U-boat?
Quite possibly, along with a load of that, Nazi gold, probably.
Didn't he do some things with the hasn't it been said that the skull that they said was Hitler's is actually a female skull?
Yeah, the one that the Russians have got. Yeah, I've read stuff like that.
And I'm sure there was something that came out recently that said that like KGB files have said that they didn't find anything that even pertained to be evidence of like Hitler at the scene, but I don't know, that could just all be bullshit as well.
That he drugged himself and shot himself, isn't it? Isn't that right? And then the people in the bunker, the people in the bunker took him outside and set him on fire. So there's not going to be a lot left of him. Either way, is there?
I don't know, you know. Well, how come there was the female skull there?
Could have been Eva Braun.
Maybe that was Eva Braun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but why ain't she fully charred then?
Fully charred? Well, the skull could still be there.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
She could. Maybe.
How come then? By that token, how come like there's no evidence of Hitler, but then you can fly a plane into the World Trade Center, fucking set the thing on fire, boom, and your passport be at the bottom. You know what I mean? You like. I'm just putting the question out there. You know what I mean?
I don't. That's my point. I don't see how he could drug himself, shoot himself in the head, and then be set on fire, and they find his remains and are like, "Yeah, that's Hitler. There he is."
I mean, as well in all of history as well. Yeah, you're telling me that he couldn't have found a way out?
Are there any?
I mean, it's not like his soldiers are going to stop him, is it? It's like, I'm not letting you leave. You've got to stay here and fall on your sword.
But that's what
the onus would have been on to get him out,
wouldn't it? He said he was. I think I remember reading it somewhere that he said he wanted to stay and help liberate Berlin or whatever, or like defend Berlin, and then break out. And all his soldiers were like, "No, you need to get out," and he was like, "No."
Yeah, but that could just all be bullshit, though, couldn't it? Could just be rhetoric. That's a good film, though, isn't it? Downfall.
Yeah.
What a really amazing performance as well. The bloke that plays Hitler.
Yeah,
he smashes it, doesn't he? He's decent at it. It's one of them every fancy dress party. You know what he's coming out, don't you? And then And then the other thing is as well, like the other thing that I find interesting is phantom aircraft. Like there's a lot of reports of like UFOs and Foo Fighters, and there's the incident of the Battle of Los Angeles as well. Now this is probably just down to like the twitchiness of the American people, but basically a massive firefight in the sky basically broke out over Los Angeles because there was lots of reports of unidentified objects in the sky, and they thought they were being invaded, and it just went off like literally anti-aircraft fire just getting pounded into the sky like mad, and then also as well there was testimony that people thought it was they thought it was the Japanese in it, so like they were saying that there was Japanese paratroopers that have like come out of the sky, and this whole
was it? Who the saying it was?
The official story is it's a weather balloon, isn't it?
Well, this is the thing that nothing was ever recovered. Yeah, nothing. There was no plane wreckage, nothing. Yeah, just like basically this massive fucking firefight ensued. Obviously, one way, and there was nothing in there. But people were adamant that they seen something in the sky. And this is a good one as well. There's also reports of a year to the day in Pearl Harbor. After the attack of a ghost plane, an American ghost plane, and I think quite a few people seen it. Hang on, let me get the.
I think I know a little bit about that one.
So there's just like, yeah.
So isn't it like, is it a year or is it like 2 years? Because isn't it like supposed to be like 1944?
It was a year, I think.
Because Pearl Harbor was 1942, wasn't it? Or was it 41?
Yeah, it was a year and 40, a day, it says.
42, I think.
December anyway, wasn't it?
1942, yeah, December 42.
And it's like this plane had markings on it that it could only have got from the previous year. Like they didn't use those markings anymore. It came from the direction of Japan. It was beaten up. It had no landing gear. The pilot was like dead or something inside. And then...
Yeah, it was bullet ridden. It was. It showed up on radar. They sent 2 planes out to investigate it, and the pilots claim that the pilot in the plane waved at them briefly before his P-40 nosedived directly towards the ground and crashed. The rescue crews were dispatched immediately and combed through the wreckage. There was no trace of the pilot. They did recover a diary that indicated the plane was stationed on the island of fucking Mindanao, 1,300 miles away in the Pacific. What are you laughing for? You fucking pronounce it.
That's the way the island was called, fucking Mingaleo. The island of fucking...
if he was wounded Pearl Harbor defender, how did he survive in a shredded plane for a year without landing gear? They were just flying around for a year. They don't even know what. They fucking literally don't know what happened. It's a mad one, that one.
Yeah. Crazy.
But then he just flew through a small wormhole.
Maybe.
And was like, it's only half an hour for him or whatever it was, or do you know what I mean? It's like,
that's what the wave was. All right, how's it going?
Yeah.
Well, if they exist in space, they can exist on the Earth, can't they?
What, planes? World War II fighter planes?
No, wormhole, like fucking black holes. It's just one. You know what I mean? Could be one anywhere, couldn't there? But I just find stuff like that about the World War II fascinating. It's like the Nazis and their obsession with the occult as well. It's just fucking interesting. Way more interesting than fucking most of the shit to do with it. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think it's a fascinating time in history to me, anyway.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, same, but I don't know. There's something about the Nazis, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? They make the best documentaries, Nazis and sharks. It's like Operation Paperclip as well, and stealing the scientists and whatnot. I love those ones where it's like the weapons that they tried getting off the ground as well and didn't quite manage it. Obviously, like jet planes is one of them, and they obviously had that the rocket that was jet fueled as well. Yeah, that's it. And they reckon as well that he was trying to get like flying saucers off the ground and that, and there's even like structures, seen it, where they're like, this is where they were trying to get some kind of magnetic like flying saucer off the ground.
The bell.
Yeah.
Shit like that's fucking
You heard
mad.
about the bell?
Is that what it's called, the structure?
It's called something like the Daigoch. They made a documentary about it. I remember watching it. It's about apparently it's a device that can travel through dimensions, and they did build it. They used like, I think it was the SS that built it, and that you can still see the platform that they had it tied to and stuff, and it's reported that they turned it on and it did something, and you know.
Yeah.
I think this is a. They're saying that this is a hoax, but it seems like something the Nazis would do. Do you know what I mean? The Diaglock or whatever it's called.
No,
yeah,
I thought
the
it was
Diaglock.
proven that they built it. They found schematics and everything.
It's a big row, basically. Okay. Some people are saying it's a hoax. It's a bit like the Burmese Spitfires.
Right, yeah. That mystery,
yeah, the big mystery. Yeah. So even though everything, the headlines for the Burmese Spitfires use the word mystery, we've debunked it. It's not a mystery. It's just buried under someone's house. So yeah, you heard it here first. But that's my section anyway.
Yeah.
Done. Dusted.
Would you like to go next? Or should we do some comments or what?
No, I'll go next if you want.
We're gonna dive straight in.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, I was just going to talk about Stalingrad, really. Mine ain't about conspiracies or nothing like that. Just that war of attrition that the Germans forced upon the Soviets in that period of time of the war.
It's a fascinating battle. It's
that's
probably
what I mean.
the
It's
turning point as well of the Second World War, isn't it?
Yeah. It's one of the top battles, isn't it? There's that. The Battle of the Battle of Britain. You got Dunkirk as well. It's all important like periods of the war, isn't it?
But Stalingrad,
you know what I mean?
it's pretty much the turning point, isn't it? That's when they start losing the Germans.
Yeah, because they lost their morale disappeared, didn't it? The Germans because
of the weather.
The Russians, the Germans. Sorry, no, that was more the press on Moscow, wasn't it?
It's all at the same time, isn't it? But
I suppose.
It depends what you're talking about, because the 9th Army, isn't it? The German 9th Army that attacked Stalingrad, and then the Soviets encircled them, and with a mixture of like starvation and lack of winter clothes, they all like attrition and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've read before, no German ever thought they would lose that battle at Stalingrad, ever. Because there was 1 million soldiers there, weren't there? German soldiers.
Yeah, it's also a completely
like
pointless battle, isn't it, really? Because all they had to do was drive to Moscow, liberate the oil fields, but because it bore the name of Stalin, Hitler ordered them to march on it, to take the city, just because it's got Stalin's name in it. I swear I've read that before.
I know, yeah. It's just, to say they did get like 15 miles, didn't they, from Moscow at one stage, and they turned south down to Ukraine.
They captured part of Moscow, didn't they? And then that was when Hitler, what was it, execute Order 255 or whatever it is, not one step back.
Stalin was ready to bloody all his generals or whoever he's the Politburo was already, some of them had already gone from Moscow.
Capitulate, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the but Stalingrad.
Yes, Stalin was said it's order 227.
I was close.
So they said that came from Stalin to say, no, you don't take a step back, and
that's
then
when they started shooting their own men. And
the winter mashed it up in it. So but basically the German troops were just running out of ammo, didn't have good clothing. Hugo Boss ain't good for the winter, and then starved as well. But he wouldn't let him surrender, would he? So I think they got fucked up, didn't they? Needlessly, quite a lot of them.
Yeah,
I think they eventually did surrender, though, didn't they? I think
I'm
he
sure
just kind
they
of was
must
like,
have done, yeah. They can't have killed
But
every
at that
single one
point-
of them.
the
Who
Germans,
surrendered?
yeah,
The German.
because
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
starving, weren't they? It was
Yeah.
fucking like skeletons, the poor bastards.
Yeah.
The other thing as well about Stalingrad was the siege as well, innit? That's the fucking one of the famous bits to it. I'm sure I read somewhere that they went to mad lengths to fucking eat the Russians, like they were fucking mixing like flour with sawdust and to make it go further or something.
Yeah,
like shit.
that was the war of attrition, wasn't it? That's what a war of attrition, like you just starve, you try and starve, because they didn't have any way out, because on both sides of Stalingrad it's water. They were to the south, and north is just fucking a vast land of nothing. Do you know what I mean? So there was just, that's why no German soldier I've read before thought they would ever lose that battle, because it was just impossible on paper with the amount of German soldiers there. But yeah, you're right.
Weren't the Russians
Go on,
really,
sorry.
like actually quite well suited to defend it because they had like real clear reinforcement lines and stuff?
I'm not sure.
I don't know, wouldn't it have been-
Germans? Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Did it not make it a bit guerrilla warfare once they
Well, I
was
think once
in there?
once they
or-
got encircled, though, the Russians they then turned to like street fighting, didn't they? And it was like, you know, they were fighting for rooms and buildings rather than like across battle lines. That's where you get all the snipers
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Jude Law.
Jude Law.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah, who
answer your
said,
question,
have you seen Enemy
Paul
at the Gate?
Godfrey's question, have you seen Enemy at the Gates? Yes.
I have. Yeah. Yeah. Cross of Iron. Have you seen
think I
that
have.
one?
No. I've seen a Russian film about World War II called Come and See.
Yeah,
it's by
that's-
far the most
Yeah.
brutal
I've
film
seen
I've
that
ever
as well.
seen to do with the war. I've only watched
Savage
it once.
film.
I couldn't watch it again.
Savage.
It's
Have you
pretty
seen it?
brutal. Yeah, man, it's pretty.
I'll tell you the
brutal.
best thing, what got me into World War, talking of films and shit like that. Coming down when I was young, about 8 or 9 or whatever, from my bedroom into the living room, and the World at War was coming on with that music and all those images and fucking. I remember watching it and think, what the fuck?
And that weird
Do you know
like
what I mean?
diorama thing with the camera like panning in.
Yeah.
Wicked show. Absolutely
Yeah.
wicked. Is it Laurence Olivier?
I know. I remember
Who's
just
it
watching
narrated
it.
by?
Yeah, it's Laurence Olivier. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and just watching it and thinking, man, was this real? Is this real? It's like shit, man. It was. Do you
Really
know
in
what I
depth
mean?
as well, like ridiculously in depth for
Yeah.
you know, TV show.
I know. And you get some people coming on. I took a note of it earlier. You know, they mentioned. I know it's not Stalingrad, but some old soldier or he was a captain or whatever was saying, when we got to the wine regions in the centre of France, the war effort kind of slowed down because everyone was on the piss. Do you know what I mean? Found all their everyone was on the wine. You know, stuff like that, like titillating little bits of information.
dishes.
Yeah.
Richard said a lot of Romanians died in Stalingrad.
Yeah, it was on the German side at that point. Yeah, my missus' granddad remembers the Russians coming down into Romania after the war, passing through, because that's where the Germans got their oil from, a city called Ploiești in Romania. It's a massive oil town. It literally stinks of oil when you go in. It literally does.
And that's what they used the oil for the front line, basically. Or...
Well, yeah,
all
for the
over
war effort,
Germany
wasn't it?
they used.
So because they were getting, that's
war
why they
effort,
invaded Norway, wouldn't it? Is that right? Because
I'm not sure.
they were going
actually.
to cut them off. Is it oil or
sure,
steel
yeah.
or something?
Maybe.
And that's why they invaded Norway, because they didn't actually make a lot of their own
possibly,
shit.
Yeah. Have you seen that town in France called, I think it's called Oradour-sur-Glane?
He says, reading from some notes that he's taken. Is that the preserved? Is that the preserved?
Mate, Rich is going to be like that.
Is that the preserved village where it's like still bombed out and stuff? Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. It's at the beginning of the World at War. It goes This is Oradour-sur-Glane. This is a town where 500 men got murdered. You know, like Sir Lawrence Olivier saying that at the beginning of. But yeah, my uncle's been there. Said it's unbelievable. It's still in the same
I'd love
condition.
to go.
It's like
I'd
a
love to go and
memorial,
see
isn't
it.
it?
It's a preserved town in where?
Northern France.
In France, called Oradour-sur-Glane.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but no, it's a actual, like, it's a bit bigger than a village, not a teeny village, a large village, and it's just completely blown out. Every building just.
And they left it because it's like a site of a war crime, isn't it, or something?
Yeah, like all the men got murdered. Apparently they locked all the women and children in the church and set fire to it.
Not nice.
So
Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Godfrey just said, actually, Russia had more men than guns. If you didn't get a shooter gun, you were to pick up one off a dead soldier. Yeah, but the point is as well, I was going to say, that's why the Germans got demoralised as well when they were going through Russia, is because they were killing all the Soviet soldiers, but they just kept on coming.
Human waves.
There was just more and more and more and more. It just wouldn't end. And some of them were saying, like, the whole country was just too vast. It just went on forever. Do you know what I mean? And like, it started playing tricks on your mind. Is it ever going to end? It's just massive, this place, which it is. It's the fucking biggest country
Plus,
on
they were
Earth,
fearful, weren't they, of getting captured?
Relatively big, yeah.
They were fearful of getting captured as well, weren't they, because of what they'd done to all the Russian peasants and stuff on the way.
Yeah. Yeah, the amount of German soldiers that returned was like minimal, wasn't it? From being captured in Russia. Hardly any returned.
I think it's about double the size of Wales, isn't it?
Roughly.
Yeah,
Roughly.
something like that.
just over double.
Although they say the inhabitable part of Russia isn't that big, though, is it? Because like Siberia's quite a lot of it. That's not really inhabitable.
Yeah, I could live there.
Half the size of Wales.
Yeah,
half the size of Cornwall.
More waves than Doug's hair. At least it's got some character.
Yeah, it's fucking Salon Selectives, isn't it? What's next?
I think it's.
Do you want me to go, or should we do some comments, or?
Yeah, where are we up to with the comments? I think we've done most of them. We've done Enemy at the Gates. I'll just go above there. The Man in the High Castle. I've never seen that.
Yeah,
Have
really
you seen
good
that?
show. Although the ending.
Get into it. It's just like,
carry on.
Because it's just like an alternate ending, isn't it, to World War II? That
it's alternative history, isn't it? It's also sci-fi because it's. I won't say what it is because it'll ruin it for anyone that hasn't seen it. Because that's the whole point of it.
Does it look decent?
It's good.
What's everyone up to?
First series is a little bit slow. Second series is really good. Then it progressively gets good until the ending. The ending is shocking. It doesn't make any sense.
Is it set in the UK?
No, it's set in America. Well, it's set in America and then partly in Germany as well.
That's why I couldn't get into it, like the Nazis in America, and it's just like, but this is just, I could say, okay, we didn't win the battle with, I don't know, fuck knows who we've had battles with and won, but we lost against, let's say we lost against the French, and let's do an alternate ending for that.
That's the point of alternative history, though, isn't it? It's fiction.
Well, no, because it's not an alternate history, is it? It's just like a fucking story.
It's alternative history, though, isn't it? It's what if the Americans lost the nuclear arms race to the Germans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the term alternative history. It's just like make believe.
It is. It is make believe.
mean?
That's why it's called alternative history. It's a genre.
It's a multiverse. Paul's saying.
It's going to ruin it for people that haven't seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, so we're living in a So
basically, it's set after the Second World War.
It's another dimension. Is it in another dimension then, basically?
So it's set after the Second World War.
Yeah.
And the Germans and the Japanese, well, the Axis powers have won the Second World War, and they've divided the US into east and western states with a buffer zone in between. And the Japanese run the west coast, and the Nazis run New York and the western coast, eastern coast.
Up until what?
So
what
Tupac
year?
would have
He
been
wouldn't have
Japanese.
existed because he was on the east side and
Why?
he killed all the black people and all that.
No, Tupac was West Coast,
Not
bro.
originally, was he?
I don't know. Anyway, he's fucking. So like, NWA
Nah.
wouldn't have happened.
Biggie, no. Hip hop in general probably wouldn't have. It wouldn't have existed, surely.
So what kind of tunage did
They
they
got
have?
like jazz and blues.
What year is it set
It's
in
the
then?
60s. Yeah.
The 60s.
All right. So what's going on?
The Americans are on the eastern coast. They've accepted Nazism, and there's no black people
Yeah.
or Jews or anything because they've all been exterminated. And on the western coast, the Japanese are more tolerant of Jews and blacks and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember seeing that actually.
And
that,
it's
yeah.
about the resistance, but it's also about like the main people that run the eastern states and the western states. It's good. It's good. There's some good.
What about in Canada? What's happened in Canada? Is it the
it's
same?
all Nazism. I don't think it really goes into detail,
Yeah.
but I think Alaska is, because Russia's still fighting. They're partisans, and they kind of loosely mention that.
Yeah.
And the Japanese are still fighting in Manchego and places like that.
So what are we doing?
Where
Just
when
being German. All right. And what about Muhammad Ali? Is he there?
No.
All right. JFK.
JFK is in it, but obviously because it's a multiverse. I mean, how in depth do you want me to go?
doing
Because I
something
could
else.
ruin the whole show for you if you want.
I'm never gonna watch
Yeah, but
it. I'll
somebody
tell you
might
why,
watch
'cause it's
it.
just
not
silly.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
it
but
sounds silly
It's
to
a
me as
TV
well.
show.
It's just fucking.
I wouldn't mind
It's like-
watching a documentary on like we don't know what happened here. The historians are saying this, but this
What's
could have
the
happened.
difference?
That's cool. Do you know what I mean? But this is just a made
So's
up story.
Game of
isn't it?
Thrones.
Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings,
so's
isn't it?
Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings.
exactly.
Like, why are you against drama all of a sudden?
Nah.
No, we're not watching any TV shows ever again because it's all made up nonsense.
yeah.
The
Yeah, but that one's just a bit far.
Of course it is.
It is
What,
just
and Lord
silly.
of the Rings is a fucking documentary, is it?
exactly. Everybody's acting like they forgot
Ah,
about
that's true.
Dre. You know what I mean? Dr. Dre would have been in there somewhere. So, what's your subject?
My
anyway?
subject is I'm going to talk about a chap called Mad.
Chapsticks.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Jack Churchill. And there he is on screen.
Jack.
So, Jack Churchill, otherwise known as Mad Jack. He's a famous soldier from the Second World War, British soldier.
Jack Fraser.
No.
Soldier Gang.
So Mad Jack, he's a bit of a character. Well, he was. He's famous for carrying a sword and a bow and arrow into battle, blowing bagpipes to inspire his troops, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. As you can see in this picture. Wait, I've got another picture for you. Not another picture.
And got killed the first
And
day in battle.
no, ironically, he didn't. He did suffer quite a number of wounds,
Yeah.
but he did get captured as well, and he later escaped twice. I've got a bit of noted history if you want me to go into it.
on then.
So he joined the army in 1926 after leaving the Royal Military College at Sandhurst, and he joined the 2nd Battalion of the Manchester Regiment, was stationed in Burma, but didn't see any action. Left the service in 1936 and took up archery. He became so good at it that he represented Great Britain in 1939 in the World Archery Championships in Oslo. He was in films as well. He was an extra and stuff like that. At the outbreak of the Second World War, he re-enlisted in the Manchester Regiment and was sent to France as part of the BEF, or British Expeditionary Force. And that's where Jack established his persona and became known as Mad Jack, or otherwise known as Fighting Jack Churchill. He was famous in the tactical retreat to Dunkirk as he led daring counterattacks against the German forces, carrying his bow and arrow into battle. during the Battle of France. He's credited with the last confirmed kill with a bow and arrow. He shot.
Yeah.
I thought that was a myth.
Well,
so.
said that.
There's conflicting accounts of it. There's some that say he lost his bow and arrow during the battle and could never have used it. There's other accounts that said that he did shoot a German officer. Another one said he shot a conscript. There's loads of different stuff. But the myth, the legend is that he's the last confirmed use of a bow and arrow and killed someone in conflict. He was awarded the Military Cross and Bar for his bravery after taking a bullet in the shoulder while attacking a German machine gun nest, and then saving a British officer during the Battle of Dunkirk, which came soon after that. He returned to England after Dunkirk, obviously, and joined the newly formed Commando Regiment. And he was involved in and saw action in Norway. I've got loads of notes here. I'm just going to skip through some.
Richard just said some of the female SOE operatives make him look lame. What does that
SOE,
mean?
they're the secret agents, spies.
Female,
yeah,
the birds.
there was females and males, and they got dropped behind German lines and did all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, they'd done some mad stuff. I'm sure there's a film.
Mr. Feminist there, bloody Richard Brackenbury.
Shall I carry on? Or do you want me to, should we talk about SEO?
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
Go on.
All right, I'll go quick. I'll speed through it. So Jack famously carried his sword into battle. He said, he was quoted as saying, "Any officer who goes into battle without his sword is improperly dressed." There you go. In 1943, he was part of the invasion.
So even if you were naked,
yeah, as long as you got your sword,
you tackle out,
sword out. Let's go. He was involved in the invasion of Italy, and apparently took 42 prisoners at sword point during the Italian campaign. After finding himself and his men caught behind enemy lines, he reportedly walked up to the German troops in the dead of the night while they were digging trenches, ordered them to surrender, and then just walked them back to the Allied positions, and they just gave up. Like, yeah, all right, no worries, mate. He received the Distinguished Service Order for that. He was taken prisoner in 1944 in Yugoslavia. He was taken to Berlin for questioning because they thought he was related to Winston Churchill, but obviously found out that he wasn't. He was then taken to Sachsenhausen concentration camp, which is, I didn't know that. I read that today, but I went there when I went to Germany, and it's a fucked up place. We can talk about that a little bit later on if you want. He escaped the camp with other British officers, a couple of which were famous for escaping from Stalag Luft 3, which was obviously the Great Escape story. He was then recaptured in Austria.
Fuck me, is there anything
I know,
this guy didn't do?
there's so much that I'm leaving loads out as well.
This is like a bullshit CV, isn't it? Right, what I've done
I'm leaving so much out.
I managed... Yeah, I was the CEO of Coca-Cola. Then I ran Duck Bishop Handyman Services. Do you know what I mean? And then I killed someone with a knife.
Well, that's it for World War II, but his story doesn't end there, and I can keep going if you want. If we don't carry on, because we could carry on, but I just want to say that he was a bit of a fucking warmongery bastard, as you could probably tell from what he got up to. He saw no further action in World War II, though he was on his way to fight the Japanese, arrived in Burma to start the campaign just as the Americans dropped the second atomic bomb, and he was reported as saying, "If it hadn't been for those damned Yanks, we could have kept the war going for another 10 years."
Yeah, he was gutted, wasn't he?
I mean, what kind of? I mean, that's a bit savage.
Don't know. He fucking must have loved it, didn't he?
Well,
he
was pretty good at it, wasn't he? Really, let's face it, he was pretty good at war.
Fucking.
Well, there's more, but we could go on for like 2 hours just talking about him.
Wasn't he into? Didn't he? He was into surfing.
Yeah, apparently
as well,
he's the first person to ride the wave in the River Severn or something.
Yeah, I saw that.
The River Severn.
Yeah.
Like ride the big wave that goes down, because there's a big wave, isn't there?
Yeah, I know.
He's the first
Yeah.
person in history to do
Yeah,
that. I know, it's these
Bullshit.
people.
He designed his own surfboard.
Bullshit. Fucking hell, he's the first. What was it? First one to fucking surf in Hawaii or something next.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? First one to do a bungee jump. First one to fucking wear flip flops.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
don't
that's
know.
why I brought him up, because it's kind of like, I was going to talk about Douglas Barda. He's obviously he's famous for being a fighter pilot with no bloody legs and like one arm and fucking half an eyeball, and I was gonna say, like, do you think that there's something to those myths? Do you think half of the legend is true, or none of the legend is true?
No, Barda did.
Yeah.
No, Douglas Barda. There's a film
That's why I
about
brought
it
up
as well.
Mad Jack, because you could scrutinise a bit more with Mad Jack. Because Douglas Barda was just a daft bastard that didn't seem to care if he lived or died, and as much as life tried to fucking kill him, he just kept going.
Yeah.
Some people are like that, though, aren't they? They just fucking fluke it. Like, you know, it's like there's all this chaos is going on around this guy who's a fucking mentalist, and the odds are stacked that he's going to get fucking mashed up in it, and he just gets through it, and then fucking surfs down a big river.
He's a real world British version of John Wayne.
I was gonna
say
gay.
Steven Seagal.
John Wayne was gay, wasn't he?
Was he?
Know what I mean?
Is that proven though?
It's the worst kept secret
in
Hollywood.
Is that proven though?
Yeah.
My mate knew him.
Dave from the pub.
My mate Dave from Hollywood.
Yeah.
Said he saw him in OMG on a Saturday night.
He drinks down the Hollywood pub.
The Hollywood local.
It's cool. Yeah. But this Churchill, it sounds like a nutter,
it sounds crazy, doesn't it?
It sounds like fucking.
Like it sounds like you wouldn't believe it.
It's I don't know, but it's all like it all comes from multiple sources. So
I'll tell you what, it sounds like he's written it himself.
Well, you say that,
and they went, "That's what I want you to put forward."
He's written his Wikipedia
you say that,
page.
But yeah, right. You say that, but he was very unbecoming and wasn't one to talk about his own exploits. Definitely wasn't one to like.
I doubt that very much.
I mean, they would.
He was named by some society. Where is it? He was named. This is funny. He's named by the Royal Norwegian Explorers Club, the famous one, as one of the finest explorers and adventurers of all time. He's definitely a real dude, isn't it? That did all some mad shit. But would you really want to be with someone like that? He strikes me as the kind of person that'd just get fucking people like.
I don't know though. I mean,
I know, but he survives.
Come on, chaps! I've got.
I don't really know though.
You got
it's
fucking
kind of like if you're in that situation, surely you. I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not a soldier or never have been or anything like that. But surely you'd want someone that is fucking crazy like that.
No, because I don't follow people that age, and I think, man, he's fucking gonna get me killed.
But you got to remember that the majority of the lads that he's got with him would be like late teens, wouldn't they? Early 20s, and he would obviously be an older chap, and he's leading commandos. It's not like he's leading like normal squaddies and normal regulars. Not that.
Yeah, it'll be like, we need to get back, boys. You're gonna survive. Get buggy you later.
But you know what I mean, like. It's
mad,
it's a mad character from history, and whether only half of what he got up to is true, that's some life that he's lived.
I could put a list down and it would sound mint, and I'm not saying
really?
lying.
You're going to compare your list with?
No, but it would have some. It would have some value. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Doug's led the Quinton Massive into battle against fucking
Bartley Green.
Exactly. Fucking hell. And all he had was his trusty fucking golf club. He said,
no, it was a rounder's bat.
You're not properly dressed unless you've got your rounder's bat as an officer in the fucking Quinton Massive.
I've met some, you know what I mean? Mine's more about meeting odd people. I've met some odd fuckers in my time, do you know, on my travels. You know what I mean?
How is that comparable to some guy who did all that mad shit?
Because it's not the same, but it is. Do you know what I mean?
No,
Think about it.
It just depends on what your metrics are in terms of what you're defining as like you're impressed by. Not that I'm impressed by Jack Churchill. I mean, fair enough, fair play. Do you know what I mean? He's obviously like done some mad shit, but it's not like the kind of mad shit that I'd want to be doing myself.
I agree.
Around, so
definitely, I wouldn't want to do the same. Not at all. But maybe we should be thankful that people like that have existed and probably still do exist in some form.
Yeah, but there's also like a hell of a lot more people who aren't like that who went to war. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what. You know, I know Richard's got a question at the end, but Richard on the chat there, Brackers, he told me a story about his time when he was in the army in the tanky, and but he tells everyone it's a good story, and I'll tell it really shit. I'll just give you the gist of it. But Rich tells everyone he meets like Grandad from Only Fools and Horses. Do you know what I mean? But during the war, when I was in the first Gulf War, right? Basically, in a nutshell, they're going off for battle or to meet up somewhere. That his tank crews woke up and there was no tanks there. They'd all gone because they'd woke up an hour late. So they've had to batter it across the desert, and they bumped into some US soldiers, and there was like, you see where a bunch of tanks went? And they was like, yeah, it went that way, and they caught with them, I presume. But it's quite a good story, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I believe it, definitely, but it's the kind of thing you would see, like you say, in a fucking sketch, in a sitcom.
I think it's only that's a typical British story, isn't it? It couldn't happen to be a Yank, that could it? Do you know what I mean? It's just proper Brits all over.
Woke up late.
Fuck. Where is everyone?
Where do we go? What do we do? You'd be like that. What the fuck do we do now?
Oh, it's a class story, man.
I wonder why they didn't wake him up.
Yeah, well, why did?
I know, yeah, that's a point.
Give him a knock.
Yeah,
why they just left? Why did they just leave you as well? Like, that'd be alright. That'd be fine.
Maybe the story's completely wrong.
Just give tank number 5 a knock, will you? We're off out now. Fucking.
Nah, but then maybe the
next me breakfast.
Maybe the next crew was like that. Nah, fuck them.
Yeah, but surely somebody was like,
you know what I mean?
all right, there's supposed to be 6 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's enough. You know, that'll be fine.
What you said you was going to talk about something else, Coxie, as well. You said you was going to mention something.
What was that?
I can't remember what it was. You said you were going to talk about something else after.
I was going to talk about Douglas Barda, but I haven't really got anything prepared because I thought we could talk about crazy characters.
Who is Douglas Barda, just quickly?
Well, he was an RAF pilot.
I don't know this.
Don't you know him?
I've not.
Yeah, and he lost his legs.
And didn't he lose an arm as well?
He walked like that. He walked like that, didn't he?
I don't know. You're frozen. Oh, there you go. Yeah, he had 2 fake legs.
Like that. Well, he couldn't bend them.
And he still flew.
He's a fighter. Wasn't he an ace pilot as well? Apparently, he killed loads of Germans and shit.
I never knew that. I'll give it a look.
He's like a real. He's like a. He's one of those. They dressed him up as a hero, obviously, but you kind of think there might be something in him being a hero because he's just a fucking loses both legs and then just goes, just get back in a plane and go and fucking fight with them again. It's a crazy bastard.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Shall I do the last question?
Yeah,
go on then, yeah.
So this coming from Rich, yeah. So I thought this would be a good one to end on. And it goes like this. It's just quick and simple. The glorification of war as a nation, are we guilty?
Yeah.
But maybe that's not. Next question.
Next question.
Rich, next time, ask one that is a yes
Rich has gone all quiet since I said
maybe
the story.
It's because you shared his story, innit? He's pissed off with you.
Yeah, he wanted to say it.
Classified, motherfucker. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's necessarily.
I don't know. Definitely.
You go.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. I think we're definitely guilty of glorifying the war, but it's just fascinating, isn't it? But I don't know. It feels as if there's almost like a brand to World War II, isn't it? It's part of the fucking brand, man. Like, That's what I was thinking this weekend when I was walking around and seeing all the stuff going on for VE Day. And I do get it, because it's like 75 years, isn't it? And maybe as like a nation, we should mark it in a reflective way and fucking teaching kids about it and all that. But it is part of the brand, man. Big time. Fucking. So I think we're guilty of it. But what are you supposed to do?
I've heard in France it's more of a, obviously in Germany the same, it's more of a somber affair.
That's interesting, because I wondered why it wasn't more somber here. You know, like reflective, like it's shit war, isn't it? Really, if you think about it. But it seems to be something that's really dressed up here. Is like the obviously, like, I'm not going to take away from what happened and fucking what people went through, because fucking we come out the other side of it. But it's almost as if people hark back to want to fucking go back to it a little bit. And like I said before, it's pretty fucking shit, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
I think
it's
the reason
fucking...
for that, though, in short, is that that was a time when the average British person, regardless of age or gender or whatever, everyone seemed to come together and try to achieve something. Obviously, like, you know, we talked about the hindsight and stopping the Holocaust and all that. I don't mean anything like that. I mean, it's a time when everyone came together, or like, you know, the vast majority came together for a common good, and we don't do that anymore. Like, we haven't. You look at
but Rich is just sorry. Go on. Sorry.
It's a good point. What Rich put there.
Go on.
No, go on. He's just said we scraped to victory, and yet we stand so smug. And we was on the winning side, but the only thing that we won or achieved was the Battle of Britain. We just fended somebody off.
I don't think you should say that, because I mean, my granddad got a massive hole blown in the back of his head in Arnhem. Like, you know, there's a lot.
I'm not denying any of that.
I mean, when people say like the Americans came in and saved us and all that, there's some.
We wouldn't have won that war without the Americans,
definitely.
Mate.
Even financially, before they even put troops on the ground.
But you've got to remember that this country was unified with Polish people, French people, peoples from all over Europe that didn't give up in the face of, you know, something that would have drastically changed the world as we would have known it. I think there's something quite honourable in what those people did at that time, regardless of whether you...
Yeah, I'm not denying that.
I think you can't really belittle, like, oh, we scraped a victory and all that. It's like, well, those people achieved more in their short time, in those 5-6 years, than a lot of people would have done, regardless of whether all they did was like go and work on a farm or whatever. They still survived something that, you know, this pandemic can't even touch for me. I don't know. I struggle with belittling that suffering and just saying we scraped a victory and that kind of thing. I don't know. I think there's more to it than just saying, you know, we're smug because we scraped a victory and we stand by that. I don't think that's necessarily accurate.
I don't know. I think the brand does kind of whitewash quite a lot of things, though, if I'm honest. Like, obviously, a lot of people did band together and do stuff. You had people fighting from all over the British Empire. Do you know what I mean? Like, fucking people from fucking India and shit, like flying fucking Spitfires, and then Polish pilots and people, fucking displaced people fighting. So I get all that and everything, but like, doesn't mean to say that everything was rosy for them or they got treated fucking great. You know what I mean? It's just like they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, so but that's the thing, though. They didn't have a choice, but they rose to that occasion. Like they gave their, I mean, I'm whitewashing now when I say it, but they gave their all to something that wasn't necessarily just for their own benefit. And we, like I say, we can look back in hindsight now and go, it was a just war because they were defeating tyranny and all that kind of stuff. But even just back then, I mean, you're looking at people that were still suffering from the First Great War. You know, and they knew the horrors of the trenches and shit, and they still sent their sons away. And they, you know, they accepted bombs raining on their heads.
Yeah, but they didn't have a fucking choice.
But they still
have a
rose
choice,
to it. Do you know what I mean? They still didn't give up in like you know.
Yeah, but you're not going to give up, are you? You're not going to give up through self-preservation. Self-preservation
Yeah, but
is going to
self-preservation.
The majority
What about
of
all
people.
the bombs rain on their heads every night and their lives getting completely destroyed? They didn't like break down and give up and.
I'm not saying that. We're not saying that.
That happened on the other
Yeah, that's
side
what
as
I'm
well.
saying.
Though,
I mean, I don't really.
You know what I mean?
It's because there's a lot of Germans that never voted for the Nazis. There's a lot of towns that never gave up fighting Nazism in Germany. I mean, you know.
Ryan made a good point a minute ago. He said most of the stories about community cohesion in the 40s are myths. Well,
yeah.
I think it's like...
Yeah, it's people look back on a period in time like you would look back on the 80s and 70s and think, oh, there's some good music around then and times were different and it's more got a romantic spin on it. Do you know what I mean? You look back in the 40s and think, look at the time, it was more simple. Okay, there was a war, but, you know...
Yeah, but in the same vein, you can look back and belittle things and misread things and not really understand what those people were going through. Because you could look back at now, people are suffering from this pandemic, right? But the majority of us panic bought and did crazy shit. I never did, but the majority of people did. That doesn't mean that we're, you know, the same story, the same situation.
I know, but there's thousands of people. I think COVID's a bit different. There's fucking thousands of people dying from God knows what.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Day.
It's like you can't compare. We can't. Apart from like the odd few people that lived through it and can still remember those times, we don't know what it was like.
That wasn't the question, though, was it? The question was, are we as a nation guilty of glorifying the war?
I mean, I would say we do. We do glorify those years and what happened, but I don't think it's altogether a bad thing that we do. Because at the end of the day, there were acts of bravery in communities. There were people that were firefighters and did heroic shit. They weren't anything to do with actual fighting. And there's nurses and there was doctors that did heroic things, and people gave up their lives of comfort to re-enter services and stuff like that. I think that there were, you can say that they were, over saturated with looking back with rose tinted glasses and stuff, but I think you have to understand that we couldn't relate to that at all. Like, you look at, like, with Rich served in the Gulf War, that didn't come home. It did with the soldiers, and don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling PTSD or anything like that, but the Falklands and things like that, they all happened miles away. It wasn't like we lived through that. So I don't think us as a generation, there's people in the world that could speak to this kind of thing, like Iraq and stuff like that.
When do you think we should forget about thinking about World War II and other wars? What? So we should still remember the Napoleonic Wars or things like?
Yeah, why
should
not?
We?
Yeah, that was a war against tyranny in itself. And the fact that people, in my opinion,
I was just listening
the fact that people don't really take history seriously enough is why it always repeats.
So we have to just remember. I think it would anyway.
Like, I was just listening to what you were saying, and like, I get what you're saying about the sacrifices that people made, like the common people, but it's not often painted like that in popular culture, is it? It's all like Winston Churchill did this or some other fucker did it. It's like, do you know what I mean? So it's not as if like those representations are often pointed at the forefront of most people. Obviously, if you're a read or educated person, you're going to understand that a lot of people made sacrifices, work in fields, even people like the people in the country who weren't even on the front line, so to speak, still made massive sacrifices. So that isn't portrayed.
No, but then it's up to,
is it?
It's up to you to.
So it's glorified.
But the thing is,
but you can't say it's up to people by that token. Then
because
why is it?
What's the point in learning about anything if you don't try and contextualize it? Like, history only really matters if you put yourself in it, because then you can evaluate it more, in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, but that's your opinion. That's you. That's not everyone. That's not popular
Yeah, but that's what
culture,
I'm
is
saying,
it?
but those
Popular
events-
culture pushes a rhetoric, an agenda that glorifies the war in a particular way that fits the World War II brand, that people who don't have the ability or the wherewithal to research and read into things properly buy into. And that's why you have silly little street parties where someone's playing fucking shit music with a fucking turntable in the middle of the street when we're supposed to be fucking socially isolating, which is what I said at the beginning of the podcast, isn't it?
All those glorified events provide much needed context for something that you can't ever put yourself in. Do you know what I mean? It's not irrelevant at all. How is it relevant?
Well, if I can't put myself in it, how is it relevant to me?
Why do you like music from the past? Why do you like rave culture? Because you were never there.
I was alive at the time. I was brought up.
Yeah, but you can hear the music. You can hear
that's
music.
completely. That's ridiculous. Did I ever go to raves? Yes, I did go to raves. I went to the tail end of raves.
The tail end of raves.
That's like saying.
But you were never there in the heyday.
Yeah, but mate,
you were never there in the heyday.
By that token.
So you don't know what the fuck it was like.
Someone who grew up during the war as a child, you weren't there.
No, it doesn't at all. No, it isn't at all.
It is.
Because rave culture was all about drugs, being there in the moment and experiencing it.
It's not about what.
Now the war, the Second World War in particular, they were all evacuated. Like they all lived through it. They all went through something. All you did was stay at home watching TV as a child.
I'm not saying that I went.
Well, why do you like it? It's because you listened to the music, you looked at the fashion, you looked at the lifestyle, and thought that's appealing, and then put yourself into it.
Because I was brought up on it.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with the war?
Yeah, because you looked at something and then you put yourself into it. You were like,
I didn't look at anything.
So you were brought up with it.
Just like people are brought up with racism, and that makes them racist. What do you mean?
Why does being involved around people that are racist make you racist? I grew up around racists, and I'm not racist.
Not saying it's 100%, but it's like if you grow up with something, you're more likely to be interested in it. It's not like I didn't look at history and go, oh, I'll look at this and I'm really interested in what that person's wearing.
But the thing is,
they listen to
if
this.
you were brought up with it, you were brought up with it, but you never lived it. So you were based on someone else's words and someone else's lifestyle, all that kind of thing. And then you decided that you were attracted to that. Maybe it was subconsciously, but you were still attracted based on what someone else said. And you were still attracted by the music and other things what other people made and did. So those events, those raves, those illegal raves, that music, that lifestyle.
Yeah, but I'm still trying. I'm sorry. Why has that got anything to do with glorifying the?
No,
is that what you're trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is those events provide context for your interest, for you to get into something and know more about it. Like,
yeah, but I didn't get into World War II and learning about World War II because I liked the look of the culture. Do you know what I mean? I got into it because I saw something that shocked me.
But I'm not saying that.
Not because
I'm not saying that
it.
You necessarily have to like something to be interested in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
All I'm saying is that glorifying the Second World War, I think we are guilty of it. I think we're quite obviously guilty of it. Like, we still go on about it, and we even draw parallels with this fucking pandemic through it. We've already discussed that. My point is that glorifying it isn't necessarily overly a bad thing, because it's up to you then as a person to really put yourself into those times and think, how did those people live that way? You know, what was it like, and that kind of thing, and develop as best you can an understanding of it.
But what if you don't have the ability to do that, which is what I said originally? Yeah, what if you're a Mong?
So what? What if you wake up tomorrow and the sky's red? It's got nothing to do with it. It's about how you interpret anything.
So are you saying the glorification of World War II is a good thing? Because
I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing that the Vatican exists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you could say the glorification of racism could get people into that. Do you know what I mean? Like far right thing, and that could get someone into
that's
that
a bit
interested.
Of a false equivalence, though.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm not saying that.
Well, no, well, it is because you're saying the glorification could get people interested, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, but I mean,
you could say the glorification.
Do
you know what I mean?
I mean, you're suggesting there that you could incite racism because someone might have an interest in it, and I agree with you, that could happen. But what I'm saying is a glorification of past events that were a good example of how people should act. Do you know what I mean? Unselfishly and all that kind of thing isn't necessarily a bad thing. And to know what people have lived like in the past and to try and understand it will give you a better vision of living your own life. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I agree with you that we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I'm lost now anyway, so fucking went for everything on that one.
But it isn't the glorification of World War II per se. It's a celebration of a victory in all wars. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point, isn't it?
Well, there you go.
Okay, we're going on about we're celebrating a victory in death, basically, aren't we? I mean, that can't be a good
because
thing.
if you look at those people that were actually celebrating it, like all the archive stuff the BBC have released, they're celebrating the fact that they're not dead. Those people that were actually there on VE Day.
Yeah.
Mm. No, I'm just saying it's an interesting point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
About.
I mean, my dad said to me I remember him saying when I used to be big into watching World War II documentaries and that, and he said, "God, these poor blokes just going into to fucking war like that. It's no fucking idea what they're going into, you know, at the very beginning." And you know what I mean? Same as it's on about more World War One, actually, I think, which was horrific as well. I'm not saying one's worse than the other, but it was fucking horrific. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you look at that and you think, fucking, how can you glorify anything like that, really? Because the people who were actually on the front lines and that were getting all the fucking shit, basically. You know what I mean? You had a one in chance of dying, one in one or whatever the fuck it was.
Surely peace is an achievement as well.
Do you know what I mean? Could say is worth glorifying.
So,
but look, I mean, like, you could glorify the individual's valor, like your dad said. I think that's a very important thing, that we should remember that those young boys, which is what they were, faced that kind of danger. Like, say, completely didn't know what they were getting themselves into and fucking completely volunteered for it, largely.
Yeah.
Which is what I would say is what's worth glorifying.
On both sides as well. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people fucking look at the Japanese and the way that they fought. They were sold something that didn't exist. Do you know what I mean? That's why they convinced them to fucking fly fucking planes into boats and shit.
They also played on the Japanese mentality, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. In terms of fucking I don't want to use the term brainwashed, but it probably is fucking applicable. You sold a certain thing, so everyone thinks they're doing the right thing, don't they, on all sides?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if Germany would have won the war, like fucking, I'm sure on that side of the fence, they would have thought they were fucking doing the right thing. You always think you're doing the right thing, and far too often, fucking kids, men, women as well, whatever, sent to fucking fight wars for something that isn't even the fucking purpose of what it said it is. It's like, look at fucking the Iraq war. It's all just an excuse. The public gets swayed for an excuse for conquest. And I just don't think it's anything to glorify at all. And I think, as much as I'm fascinated with war films and fucking, I watched Band of Brothers again recently, and I must have watched it about 7 times, and all the rest of it, it just doesn't make it right, does it? Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. It doesn't fit too fucking comfortable with me the way that as a country we fucking celebrated the 75th thing in terms of the whole fucking the tone of it. I would have preferred if it was a bit more reflective, a bit more somber, and a bit more fucking in keeping with like the sacrifice that people had to go through, as opposed to just being an excuse for people to fucking stick some Union Jack hats on and go and get pissed in the street.
No, and I agree with you.
But that's it, man.
I agree with you.
agree.
Because,
Yeah.
like I say, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, but I didn't say it wasn't at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, when you put it into that style of context, I completely agree with you. But I also agree with what Deb said and what Doug's dad said. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a complex issue.
I guess that's what makes it interesting. Yeah, it is, because it's like fucking, it's perplexing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I said, man, my favourite fucking genre of film is war film. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, as much as I don't agree with it, plus, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not bothered about conflict in an everyday scenario either, but the thought of it all, it just isn't cool, man. Like, fucking, the Japanese have had an interesting fucking, the way that they've come out of it in terms of fucking, obviously, having the bomb dropped on them, and then their approach to military since then, and their approach to fucking celebrating or commemorating. Well, it's not a celebration, is it? It's the wrong choice of word. It's quite interesting because they're fucking, they try to be advocates for peace. I mean, that's a good example of how fucking shit can really go wrong as well if you're the aggressor and fucking by the by a whisker. You know, we could have been on the receiving end of some fucking horrible shit because of the war. Do you know what I'm saying? It changes the fabric of countries' whole existence big time.
So Germany's one of the most pacified countries in Europe now. I mean, they didn't go into the Iraq War. Do you know what I mean? The German people.
In the second Iraq War, I think, didn't they? It was the first time they were allowed to do air raids. I think the Air Force did something in the second one.
But the people have definitely changed because they've learned the history, and they've changed for the better. I would have thought. Well, that's my look on it, on the German people.
I mean, I did think this. I did wonder whether or not it would have served us well in some regards to have like lost the war a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds harsh,
a little bit,
but it's just like fucking
just a little bit of it.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't think to have been occupied, or I think people's attitudes are different. Well, obviously in Guernsey,
Jersey.
Yeah, but it's you know what I mean. It's not the same thing.
Well, yeah,
is it?
But I mean, you could say that we did like slightly lose the war because we had the BEF leaving from Dunkirk and all that. Like, we lost the war more than we won it, really, didn't we? We lost the first half of it, and you got to think about North Africa and all that as well.
It's fucked up. So somber tone to end the podcast, but I think it's a worthy one to end it on, which is why the question came last, because it's fucking, it ain't good. It's like, no one wants that kind of shit, do we? But we live in a fucking world where fucking people want to have wars, don't we? And we don't really have much to do with it, so.
Indeed.
Godfrey's just said this, and he did say this to me over the weekend, because we were chatting over the weekend, and it did make me think. He said, if the Germans won, our generation would probably now celebrate being liberated by them. At first, I was like, I'm not sure, but then the more I thought about it, it probably would be the case. We'd be celebrating. It'd be like the national fucking German Day, innit, when we became German.
Yeah. Think of the propaganda what would have been pushed with that, the onset of we stopped the onset of globalization, the onset, do you know what I mean, and all that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? They could have used things like that to promote the German side.
You got to think our relationship,
alternative history.
Our relationship with the States would have been completely different, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
would have been completely different.
Yeah.
I do wonder what would have happened. It would have been pretty crazy, innit? Because
you should watch that series.
What, Netflix or
multi-universe
Man in the High
one.
Castle.
Whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah,
It's good.
I'm not sure we would have taken too well to being invaded, though, would we? That's
Yeah, I know.
we're pretty stubborn. It wouldn't have ended very
No,
well.
Yeah,
it's
it's
happened
happened a
before,
lot
mate,
before,
and
hasn't it?
fucking-
Yeah, I
Romans,
suppose.
Vikings,
Yeah.
Saxons.
Maybe we would have buzzed off it. I don't know. Fuck knows. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm fucking gonna stop before I get in trouble. That's gonna be one of them sound bites in it in the future. Shall we go to the outro? What
Let's
we
do it.
wrapping up with? We said we was gonna talk about, is it the t-shirts this week?
Oh yeah, we got a t-shirt. Oh shit.
We've got t-shirts on sale. So if you go to Facebook, our Facebook page, you can get the link for the Facebook for the tees. I'll try and put it in the chat. But basically, every time you buy a t-shirt, a percentage of the profit comes to us. So it means that we can keep doing podcasts and music and stuff like that. And plus, they're pretty decent as well. So we're selling t-shirts, and I think we're going to be releasing a music video within the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe.
I don't.
And as the lockdown eases, we're gonna go and finish some tunes we've been working on. But I think we'll still do the podcast every Monday, just because we know people are still stuck at home. There's no pub, there's no gigs or anything like that. So we'll still keep doing the podcast.
I was going to say big thanks to everyone that sent footage, because we've had loads of it and it's been really good.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we need a lot more. What do you think?
You don't think you need it?
Keep sending it just to piss Coxie off.
No, you don't want any more.
You can keep
Coxie.
sending it, but it's.
No, don't, because he'll never get the fucking thing
Well, there's
finished.
the thing is that I've got so much already.
I keep
that
sending it.
If you send it now, unless it's amazing, it probably won't make the cut.
Because we just need this done, this video.
Yeah, that's the attitude that we
I
have
keep
with our
sending it,
releases.
man,
We just need
loads
it
of it.
done. Just get it out.
And it's done now. Well, you just have to put that's it, done. That's it, ready to go.
I haven't even started yet.
Well,
yeah, but anyway,
we'll be back next week with another topic, and we'll be socially distancing as well. So we'll do a podcast every Monday for a bit. They were invited and took over. I knew a guy whose second name was Saxon. I wonder if he was one of them. So yeah, anything
No,
else?
I don't think so.
no. Put the link in somewhere or check the
I've done it.
t-shirts out. Thanks for listening as
Yeah,
well.
thanks for listening.
Thanks for everyone who's bought a t-shirt, 'cause we've sold a few of them as
Nice
well.
one.
So nice one.
Tell us what they're like when you get
Yeah,
them, 'cause
make
we
sure
haven't-
you take
haven't got one
pictures
yet.
and send them to us and stuff. That'd be cool.
Rich wanted a palpitation one doing, if we can do it.
Yeah, I'll sort that for him.
Give us a shout on the size, because tell me if the triple XL fits or not.
Thought he wanted it skin tight to go with his bikini bottoms.
Yeah, that's what I'm on about.
What are you playing at the end of the
Playing
show?
us out, it's
Coxie?
going to be EWF.
Cheers, Deb.
Nice one,
Nice one for
everybody.
listening, folks. Nice one.
Thanks
Yeah.
for joining us. See you next week.
See you later.
I think I need to shut my mouth. You don't believe what's coming out. This This is madness, it's not where we're meant to be. No silver lining, no time for crying. We're running out of time and we need to get away. Earth begins to shift and time stands still. Skies run red, seas overflow with the lies you said. Fire starts to fade and out seeps in. Rivers run dry. You loathe to love and you know that you can't deny. If this is hate, I can't decide. You can look me in the eyes. This is madness, it's not where we're meant to be. Regret keeps rising. No time for lying. We're running out of time and we need to get away. Earth begins to shift and time stands still. Skies run red, seas overflow with the lies you said. Fire starts to fade and doubt seeps in. Rivers run dry. You loathe to love and you know that you can't deny. Earth begins to shift and time stands still. Skies run red, seas overflow with the lies you said. Fire starts to fade and out seeps in. Rivers run dry. You loathe to love and you know that you can't deny. You've been listening to Through the Trapdoor podcast with the Malthusian Trap. Now go find us on social media. Join the mailing list at malthusiantrap.co.uk and don't forget to tell your mum.